Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. That was a good summit, right? Yeah. Right. Yeah. So as we bring this summit to a close, I want to take a moment to reflect on what we've learned, what we've shared, and where we must go from here as well. I'll really start with the beginning. So the opening really set us the tone with the compelling keynote by Dr. Elisa Oko from Spark Climate Solutions. Elisa and I actually met a few years ago while we were giving a TED Talk in Edinburgh. And I was in the backstage watching her give this TED Talk, and I was thinking, how on earth will you follow that? Because she really did a fantastic job, and if you haven't seen that TED Talk, I really encourage you to see that. It's on methane and basically setting the scene on all of that. So she did the same thing here as well, and her clear articulation on methane's role in global warming, accounting for nearly 30% of the current warming, with the potential to reduce or avert about half a degree centigrade warming if mitigated, is really both sobering thought and is also galvanizing and really pushing us forward. And throughout this summit, we examined methane from every angle. We looked at biological, technological, economic, social, and political. We've heard that livestock alone contributes about 6.2 gigatons of greenhouse gases, with 3.3 gigatons as methane, 85% of that from enteric fermentation. And it is a concentrated problem. I think it was about 28 countries that have the majority of emissions. And so we have a concentrated opportunity as well. And we saw how far the NDCs have come and how far they still have to go. Only like 24 countries have submitted their latest versions with little detail on low emission livestock. So there's a lot more to do, and a lot more needs to happen. We saw that progress is happening. Countries like Denmark, India, Uruguay, New Zealand, and Chile are really taking concrete actions, from targeted breeding to feed additives and data-driven manure management. These strategies are not just theoretical, but actually happening on the ground. On the scientific front, we saw genetic improvement is underway. Methane, we were told, is a heritable trait with values between 0.2 and 0.4, which is on par with production traits. Some countries like Canada and Spain have already established breeding values, and many others are following suit. Tools like genomic selection and gene editing are becoming part of the integrated toolbox, but phenotyping remains the bottleneck. So remember, Yvette keeps saying phenotyping, phenotyping, phenotyping. So there's more work to be done there, and methane's complexity makes direct selection challenging. We also heard about progress in methane vaccines. Groups like Arkea Bio and Perbright Institute are advancing the science rapidly, navigating the unique immunological environment of rumen. Early life interventions show potential for lasting impacts, and the research ecosystem is beginning to coalesce around this goal. We have also seen some advancements in feed additives, a lot of work that's been happening in different classes of feed additives as well. And this seems to be really getting a lot of attention and accelerating as well. We talked about measurements and verification. They remain foundational. Cornell's comparative analysis of measurement tools highlighted the gaps and the promise that we have in measurement. Harmonizing MRV systems is critical, not just for tracking progress, but for enabling investment and scaling. On the financial side, we received candid insights. Voluntary carbon markets are volatile. RNG is becoming less profitable. But forward-looking initiatives like the AgriZero, Zero Net Emissions, AgCRC, and tools like FoodBite are shaping access to capital. Financing is beginning to shift from a narrow focus on environmental credits to integrated systemic investment in agricultural sustainability. Public-private partnerships like the Greener Cattle Initiative are essential, but as Juan Tricarico noted, public investment builds the infrastructure and capacity private companies need. So the road to commercialization is not linear, and regulatory authorization does not mean adoption. We also heard about the importance of communication. Research presented by various researchers showed that science alone is not enough. Science matters, but truth matters more. Trust, timing, messaging, and economic incentives also matter. Consumers prefer subsidies over mandates. Labels with methane reduction claims require context. With more information, it seems to be a better adoption. So, and most importantly, producers must feel supported and not blamed. Ranchers like Steve Wooten reminded us that every solution must pass a simple but profound test. Will this keep me in business or keep me out? It's a fair question, and one that should guide every policy, every innovation, and every dollar that we spend. And let's not overlook success stories. Bar 20 Dairy is converting methane into hydrogen and powering Fresno's public buses. How cool is that? Athian is already paid out millions of dollars to farmers for methane reductions. So Paul, next year when you come back, $100 million. The Global Methane Hub, Deloitte, Bezos Earth Fund, and others are advancing scalable platforms to connect scientists, producers, retailers, and carbon buyers. It was clear that supply chain management is extremely important. Michael Boccadoro tells us that the dairy industry in California is reducing about 5 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent a year. And it's not done yet. He's here to seek even more solutions so that there'll be more reductions to come as well. So Michael, next year, I don't know how many more millions you're gonna add to that. 2.1, okay. So as we look ahead, here's something we need to commit to, which is scaling up proven methane mitigation strategies in enteric fermentation, manure management, and feed innovation, strengthening national MRV systems to support transparency and finance, supporting farmers and ranchers with tools that improve productivity, not burden them with risk, and integrating climate action with economic viability and rural resilience. Despite the scale of the challenge, I'm walking away from this summit with a renewed sense of optimism. I saw scientists, policymakers, financiers, and producers not only in the same room, but in real dialogue. I saw consensus where I expected division and creativity where I expected caution. There is a long road ahead, but no longer uncharted. So let's leave here with three thoughts in mind. Measure with rigor, because as is often said, you cannot improve what you cannot measure. So invest in MRV systems to turn data into action. And bridge the gaps between science and adoption, finance and farmers, and policy and practice. And let's accelerate together. As Hayden Montgomery reminded us, grazing systems account for 80% of enteric emissions, yet they are the hardest to address. This is where collaboration matters the most. Elisa ended her talk with a challenge. Methane is the sprint in our climate marathon. Let's run that sprint like our future depends on it, because it really does. The science is becoming more clear, the tools are here, and the stakes could not be higher. So the next state of science should be a celebration of how far we have come, because we chose to act together. Thank you for your attention, your energy, and your dedication. So see you next year.